Hi, I'm Angela Solis with the Special Education Department. I'd like to welcome you to the second module on IEP Goal and Objective Expectations for eStar. I want to share with you our vision. As a district, our Special Education Department has worked very hard over the past years to improve our practices in developing powerful and clear PLAFs and IEPs. As we move into implementing our new system, eStar, we want to ensure that we maintain best practice and compliance. It is our goal and expectation to have consistent practices throughout the district for all who develop PLAFs and IEPs. Everyone will be using the same practices that we are sharing today. However, our LID and PPCD staff may need to consult with their leads for specific guidance.
Let's look more closely at the elements of a well-written annual goal. For time frame, everyone in Round Rock ISD will be using in 36 instructional weeks for their time frame for the annual goal. Condition is considered to be the circumstance in which the skills are to be performed or assistance required to perform the skill. You will have the stems to support you in developing conditions: given, during, using, when, and while. An example would be when given instructional level text or using a 4-function calculator. Behavior is the skill the student is expected to perform. Criteria is the mastery level at which the student should perform that skill in 36 instructional weeks. There should be a link between the PLAF and the IEP that assists you in determining mastery level for 36 instructional weeks. Method of evaluation is the general method used to collect data on progress. For example, fluency probes, teacher-made tests, work samples. In eStar, this will not need to be written into your annual goal. It will be selected from a drop-down. Let's look more closely at the elements for objectives. For time frame, this varies based on the mastery level indicated or the skill. An example might be by May 2014 or by the end of the third 6 weeks. Condition is considered to be the circumstance in which the skills are to be performed or the assistance required to perform a skill. You will have the stems here to support you in developing a condition. Behavior is the skill the student's expected to perform. Criteria is the expectation or the mastery level at which they should perform the skill. The objectives that you write should support progress towards the annual goal. Method of evaluation is the general method used to collect data on progress. Now that we reviewed the key elements of annual goals and objectives, let me walk you through the expectations for eStar. When you add a new goal, this page will pop up. You will start at the top by entering the number of the goal. For this annual goal, this is my first one, so I'm going to put number 1. You will also need to address the duration. Duration from will be the date of the ARD. The duration to will be 1 year from the date of the ARD. For the section that says Add Modifications and Accommodations, this section is an optional box for you to type in accommodations or modifications related to this IEP goal or objective. This is not a box that is required, it is optional. You must write accommodations and modifications necessary for the student on the accommodation page. However, this section again is optional. Right here you have options for selecting draft, ESY, accepted by the committee, transition related, academic, functional, and related services. When you are drafting your IEP goal and objective, you will need to select draft, and then you will select whatever else applies. If ESY is being addressed and one of these objectives is related, you will select that. If this is a transition related goal, you might select this as well. You must select one of the bottom 3. This is an academic. I will select academic. If a related service is also working on this academic goal and objective, I will need to also select related service. Please make sure you select one of these 3 at the bottom. For language and delivery, for most, the language will be English, but there are options, and there is a section that says New where you can type in. Goal focus will be the broad focus for the student's annual goal and objectives. So for example, it might be language arts, it might be mathematics, and you do have the option to type in. So I can click on new and I can type something in. So for example, reading comprehension. And then I must select a grade level. The grade level must be the current enrolled grade level. So for example, my students in 4th grade, I must select 4th grade. There is this little gray box here, right here, that says Goal Constructor. We will not, no one in Round Rock ISD will be using Find TEAC option. We do not write TEAC goals, we write goals that are skills to help access the curriculum. So we will not be using the Find TEAC option. It cannot be turned off, but the expectation is that no one in our district is using the Find TEAC option. Again, we are not using the Find TEAC option. The Find Other option might potentially be used by our low incidence population. They, however, will need to consult with their leads on specifics on whether or not they will be using that section for goals and objectives. For everyone else, it will be dependent upon instruction from your leads, and for all, we will not be using the Find TEAC section. There are two options for inserting your annual goal into eStar. The first option is to go to your text box labeled Measurable Annual Goal and to just start typing into the text box. The second option is to come to the top and use the stems that are provided to write your annual goal. First, you must select on time frame and select in 36 instructional weeks. Notice how it populates at the bottom as you select. You must select all 4 before going into the text box to make edits. Condition, you have a drop down with some stems. You also have the option of selecting new and typing in what you would like for your stem. So I can type in my complete stem. For example, when given instructional level text. Behavior, you will have to select on new and type that in. So for example, John will read. Then criteria, I will need to select a criteria that matches my skill. I'm going to select words per minute with fewer than blank errors. Now that it's all populated at the bottom, I will need to go down to make edits. In 36 instructional weeks, when given instructional level text, John will read, I need to insert my number of words with fewer than, and then I need to put how many errors. Again, if I need to make any edits or need to change any of the information, I can now do that here. After you finish your annual goal, you will need to select on Implementer and choose the implementer for your annual goal and objectives. Please remember a special education staff member must always be part of the implementer section. If you need something that's not on the drop-down, you're able to click on New and type it in. But again, remember to include a special education staff member as the implementer. Methods of evaluation is how will you progress monitor your annual goals and objectives. You will either select from the drop-down and choose, or you will select and click on New and then type in your general progress monitoring tool. For example, Fluency Probe. After you've done selecting your methods of evaluation, you will need to select on Periodic Reports on the Progress Monitoring for the annual goal. This is one selection. It's the same for everybody, concurrent with the issuance of report cards. We used to have to select 6 weeks and 9 weeks. Now you just have one selection. Once you're done with that, you need to click on Create New Objective, and we're ready to start our objectives. After you click on Create New Objective, this is what pops up. Up at the top, you have Code. Code is going to be the number of your objective. The first part of the code is the number of the annual goal. The second part will be the number of the objective. So for annual goal number 1, objective number 1, your code will be 1.1. For objective number 2, your code would be 1.2, and for objective number 3, it'd be 1.3. If this was annual goal number 2 and your first objective, this would be 2.1. There is this optional text box for modifications and accommodations. It is optional since you've already addressed them on the accommodation page. Over to the right, you have Draft Do Not Print. We typically will not click this as we want our objectives to print. You also have the option to check ESY if this is an objective related to ESY. Notice the objective constructor right here. Once again, we will not be using the Find TEK option. No one in our district will be using the Find TEK option. The Find Other is may be potentially used by our LID staff in developing objectives. They will need to check with their leads to see if this is something they will be using. Let's look at the two options you have for creating objectives. The first thing you could do is come down to the text box right here and start typing your objective right in. The second option is to use the stems above. Let's try one. I will need to select my stems. I can either select from here or I can type the whole thing in by clicking New and type. And then I need to select my behavior. I'm going to go ahead and click New, and then I would type John will read. And then criteria, I'll need to pick a criteria that matches what I want to measure for John. So now I'm going to go in and edit down below. Make sure you've selected all of these before you go to edit. In the first 9 weeks of instruction, when given instructional level text, John will read, and I can add information. I want him to read 90 words per minute, and I want him to do it on 4 out of 5 trials. So I'm going to replace that. And now I'm complete. When I'm done, I need to make sure I click on Save. After I save, I will notice at the bottom of my annual goal page, I will now have my first objective. This is what it will look like when you've completed 2. Remember, to continue to create a new objective, you will need to click on Create a New Objective. Once you're done creating all your objectives, you can actually save your annual goal, which I recommend, and then you'll be able to see a quick preview of what you've done. This is an example of what prints out with your annual goals and objectives for parents. Notice that your annual goal will be located at the top in bold. Your objectives will be located in the table below. Please note you must include goal number and you must also have a code for your objectives. It's time to review. Remember the key elements of an annual goal? Well, if you don't, it's time frame, condition, behavior, criteria, and method of evaluation. Remember that you must number your annual goals and use codes for the objectives. The first digit in the code for the objective matches the annual goal number. The second digit is the number of the objective. For example, 2.1, the 2 represents annual goal number 2, the 1 represents objective number 1. If you write an annual goal, you must have a minimum of 2 objectives. Please remember that no one in our district will be using the Find TEK option in the Goal and Objective section. Lastly, goals must be individualized for every student. Goals are not TEKs. They're skills to help support access to the curriculum. Resources for IEP development and eStar can be found on the wiki pages for elementary and secondary. I would like to thank you for your participation and time.